If you're getting your investment education and knowledge from TikTok or Instagram, you're probably going to fail. Those people are not professionals. They are paid to give a hot take on something, and that's how they make their money. I would think that if you saw their behind the scenes life, you would be extremely disappointed because, as we know, social media is the best of the best, and it's not showing the reality of what life is. So if you really want to learn and educate yourself, read a textbook like some of the ones I described. Go find someone who's highly educated locally in your area to give you an actual education on the things you're looking to learn about.
Welcome back to the Power Family Podcast. I'm your host, Terry Willis. In a recent episode, we explored the legacy of money with Sherry Rash, how families pass down beliefs, habits, and emotions around finances. Today, with Brian Pultro, we are taking that conversation deeper because legacy is not just what we leave in a bank account, or it will. It is also what we leave in the hearts, minds, and memories of our children and grandchildren. Brian is a Navy commander, financial planner, behavioral finance advisor, husband, and father of 3 sons. His life has been shaped by military service, leadership, fatherhood, and helping families understand the emotional side of decision-making. In this conversation, we explore what legacy really means beyond money, the discipline we model, the time we give, the values we live, and the patterns we break, and the presence our families remember. Before we begin, please take a moment to subscribe, follow, or share this episode. It helps us to reach more parents, grandparents, and families who are trying to build stronger connections across generations. Brian, welcome to the Power Family.
Good morning, Terry.
Brian,
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, Brian. Brian, I've invited you on as a guest because of the interest that you've taken in interests and learnings and teachings in which you can share with our audience about the financial matters when it comes to families. Because even though we have started this journey on bridging that conversation between the generations, money and financing is a factor. And we all know this, especially when children think that they're going to get that inheritance and it just isn't there, or they want it to be there. And share with us, Brian. Share with us where we stand in regarding to making sure that we build that inheritance and we are working with our grandchildren, our children, just to be able to leave that with them.
Well, I think the question you pose is kind of a Pandora's box. And I say this to all the people that I work with. Leaving an inheritance or a legacy is a deeply, deeply personal family decision. And it is something that I think many folks struggle with. The decision to maybe cut back on the things they want to do in the fall and winter of their life to ensure that they can leave money to their heirs. Or in the inverse, there are some folks who decide, hey, I've worked my entire life. I've earned this. This is my money. I'm going to go out and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to see the world. And you know what? If there's nothing left, there's nothing left. But I don't have an obligation to leave anything to my children or grandchildren. You see a healthy mix of both nowadays, I believe, with our shifting culture from the silent generation through the greatest generation and now into the baby boomers as they approach retirement in terms of what they want to do with the money that they've accumulated throughout their lives.
That's a point made here because I recently heard the figure is $1 trillion plus in which the boomers are going to be leaving behind.
Yeah.
And Brian, that's a lot of money. And that's a lot of money for children and grandchildren to be thinking about, boy, would I like to get my piece of that?
Exactly.
And I can imagine when it comes to other members of the family, the strife and division that could boil over because of who's going to get what. Alongside that, I think of the celebrities in which every now and then I hear about and I read about how they say they're not going to leave anything to their children. And you have to ask the question, what happened? What happened that they have taken that position that I'm not going to leave anything to my children? And as a person of my age, I get it.
So I don't know if I could definitively say what happened. Let me give you a backstory on the answer I'm about to give. I joined the U.S. Navy the night of 9/11, and service has been something that has been a part of my life for a long time. So I have currently been in the Navy for 20 years now. I'll hit my 20-year mark in May. I spent 11 years of that on active duty, and I've been a reservist now for 9 years. And after I transitioned off of active duty into the reserves, I wanted to find a career where I can continue to help people and make my own hours, because obviously at that point, the Navy owned me and I was missing a lot of family time. And becoming a financial planner checked both those boxes. So I give you that backstory to tell you that even though I'm technically considered a millennial, my path has been distinct from what most millennials have done. John F. Kennedy's inauguration speech from 1961, he says, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And I think we've gotten away from that, and we are now an entitlement country, especially the younger generations. And there's no longer this sense of shared sacrifice or service. It is, how do I get mine? Meaning, hey, mom and dad, you better leave me something. How can I get a piece of that pie, even though you're the one who's worked hard your entire life for it? And I think that has permeated our culture. And there is an expectation now where parents and grandparents will sacrifice their retirement to ensure that the younger generations have something that's left to them.
Brian, you struck a chord there, because my wife and I, she has a very close friend of hers, and that is exactly what this grandmother has done for her children, and now passing it on to the grandchildren. She sacrificed her life savings for these kids. And I kind of cringe at the thought of it, because we see what she's going through now. But because of that very same position that you say these younger generations are taking, I've got to get mine, and what are you going to leave me? It's scary to think that what they may not do to help her as she gets older now. I helped a friend of mine in his healthcare business, and I would help with his patients, and I would talk to the older people there. And it got very personal to me when I asked them about their families. What happened? It was some sad stories, and some of the reasons why they are there because of money. Because the kids, they wanted theirs, and they wanted it now. And I'll leave that there. So I find it very emotional and touching because of that. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Brian, because it's the truth. This generation now, asks not what you can do for the country, but what can you do for me now? And that's a very fine way to put it. Very fine. So when you hear the word legacy, what does that word mean to you beyond money or inheritance?
So when I think of the word legacy specifically as it relates to me, I don't think of money inheritance, period. The only thing I think about is, are my sons going to be good citizens that contribute to society? Period. End of story. That's it. There's nothing more to it than that. And
you are.
Yeah, sorry, I don't really have
example of it
because it's cut and dry to me. Yeah, a legacy isn't the amount of money you leave in a bank account to somebody. It's whether you've raised good human beings that are going to make a difference in the world when you're long gone.
And as I read your bio, and as I shared with you before we went on air here, you have truly contributed to society. And again, I say thank you. And so I can relate to what you're saying about, it's not about the money that you're going to leave. You have merely provided them the tools in which to establish themselves in life. What are they going to do with it now? And it's not the money.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. A lot of families think about legacy in terms of what they leave behind financially. What do you think families pass down emotionally without even realizing it?
I think the biggest thing is traditions. Traditions are something that bind families together. And when those traditions get lost, I think slowly the quilt of a family can start to peel apart. And I say this from my own personal example. I grew up in a large Italian family. I'm from just outside of Philadelphia, so a lot of them lived in Philadelphia. And I'm going to say something that's cliche, and as soon as I say it, you're going to know. But a lot of Italian families used to get together all the time for Sunday dinner. Every Sunday we'd get together. And then in the 90s, my great-grandparents passed away, so we stopped going down to Philadelphia to their house for dinner. And then my grandparents lived literally right down the street from where I'm sitting now, and we would always have Sunday dinner at their house. But as their health deteriorated, those things became less and less. And in today's society, one of the unfortunate things that we are now programmed to think is that more is more. Meaning, if my Google Calendar has 74 different colors on it and I look busy, it must mean I'm doing well. And I was just on another podcast a few weeks ago talking about how my mindset is the exact opposite of that. I want to clear the table because there is no way that I can remain grounded and see the purpose of life and enjoy life if I'm running from A to B to C to D every Saturday and Sunday. I'm not present in the moment with my wife and kids. And I think society has kind of torn that apart. So like when my grandparents' health started deteriorating, the tradition of Sunday dinners slowly dissipated as well. And about 7 or 8 years ago, I tried to bring it back, but everybody's so busy that they can't, commit to doing that anymore. And the lack of tradition, even whether it's a broader ubiquitous tradition to a culture or something like that, or something that is a innate small tradition to your family itself, when those things get left behind, I think the true value of what you're passing on also deteriorates too, because without those shared traditions, without those shared memories, without that shared purpose, what binds you as a family besides blood?
Yeah. DNA.
Yeah, that's it. And as you know, in today's day and age, which I do agree with, it's kind of healthy. I think a lot of folks my age and younger have taken the viewpoint that, hey, just because we share DNA doesn't mean we have to be close or I have to have you in my life, because sometimes that can be detrimental to our mental health, which I agree with. But some of the contributing factors of that are those loss of tradition, seeing each other on a weekly or monthly basis. And that's, I think, been an unfortunate part. And the question was, what else can you leave besides money? And the answer was hopefully traditions. And I try my best to create traditions with my family. But unfortunately, those things are kind of fallen by the wayside as society progresses.
You hit that head on, because one of the things in which, I began sharing with you what we have learned doing this podcast since we started it. And one of the things in which we have learned greatly is the word estrangement. And you just ended your talking there by putting your finger on estrangement. We've become estranged to our own family members. And as you know, it's this thing now where younger people, they really cut their parents off. Total estrangement. So that's another facet of what we have to try and work with here, because the issues are not just one. Our mantra is to start the conversation. But so many people, as we are learning, they don't even want to have a conversation. So I just had to add that to what you're saying. And so doing in your work around behavioral finance, what patterns around money, discipline, communication, or success do you often see being passed from one generation to the next?
I think the biggest thing is fear of the unknown. And unfortunately, as you know, in the school systems, we don't teach finance classes anymore. So like my oldest son he's in 7th grade now. I just got his schedule for next year. He'll go into 8th grade, and he's taking the equivalent of what we would have known as home economics. I forget what it's called now. They've changed the verbiage of it, but it's how to cook, how to do laundry, right? But nowhere in there does it say, we're going to teach you what a stock is. We're going to teach you how to balance a checkbook. We're going to teach you what a bond is, right? So we don't teach this to our children today. And then, this is a frustrating part for me, only because, going through what I did in ROTC, I was required to take physics and calculus, and I get it. But, I've never used physics. I've never used calculus. And we're teaching those things to our children, but we're not teaching them real life skills that they'll need. So that's why I say it's the fear, because, a kid graduates high school at 18 or college at 22. They're out in the real world. They're getting a paycheck. What percentage of this paycheck do I put towards investments? What is this target date fund that says target date 2050? What does that mean? What is it designed to do? And I think a lot of it is fear of the unknown. And in the behavioral finance piece, when we're not educated, we make the wrong decisions at the wrong time. And that's where changing behavior of folks is really what my passion is. And just to give you a very quick example of that, I always ask folks, if you walked into a grocery store and saw just Ben & Jerry's ice cream was on sale for $1.99, what would you do? The answer is always, I would buy more. You would not assume that this ice cream had salmonella or E. coli in it. It's just a great deal. So why do investors freak out when their blue chip portfolio temporarily goes on sale for 10% off or 15% off? You would jump at the Ben & Jerry's. Why would you not jump to buy more of your blue chip portfolio when it's on sale? And that's because of fear of the unknown. When their investments go down, they assume something must be wrong with the underlying companies I own. It's bad. I got to get out. I got to sell. But when Ben & Jerry's is on sale, we scoop up more. So it's been my adult life work after the Navy to try to rewire how folks view their investments, temporary declines in the market. So they have I believe education is empowerment. So the more educated they are, the fewer mistakes they'll make, the more their wealth will grow. And then if they choose to, they have the opportunity to transfer that generational wealth to the next generation because they haven't made the mistakes that historically we've seen people make.
And that is having an educated mindset about finances.
Absolutely, 100%.
And how does one begin to want to educate their grandchildren or their children about this?
There are many great books on this topic that are some easy reads. The one that comes to mind is Millionaire Next Door. That is a great book for younger folks to read. Think and Grow Rich. And then there's a more recent one called The 5 Types of Wealth by Celeste Bloom, which just came out. And that talks about more than just money wealth. It talks about health wealth, time wealth, social wealth, more of an all-encompassing lifestyle book. But, what I would say to folks is, and this might be harder for younger generations to stomach, is if you're getting your investment education and knowledge from TikTok or Instagram, you're probably going to fail. Those people are not professionals. They are paid to give a hot take on something, and that's how they make their money. I would think that if you saw their behind the scenes life, you would be extremely disappointed because, as we know, social media is the best of the best, and it's not showing the reality of what life is. I guarantee you they're not filming stuff of them washing their dishes or picking up their dog's poop on a walk, right? The reality of everybody's life. They're showing you this phony image that they want you to see and then telling you exactly how they got there, which for the most part is snake oil. So if you really want to learn and educate yourself, read a textbook like some of the ones I described and go find someone who's highly educated locally in your area to give you an actual education on the things you're looking to learn about.
Fantasy TV, I understand. Fantasy social media, I understand it. You work in financial planning, but also in the emotional and behavioral side of money. What do you wish more parents and grandparents understood about how money decisions are connected to fear, love, security, and family history?
I think the thing I wish the most is as parents age and get older, we're talking in their 60s and 70s, they would begin to open up and start to have conversations with their kids about what the future holds, what their estate looks like. And again, what I'm saying is it's a completely personal decision. So this is my personal opinion. It doesn't mean that's right for everybody. I don't understand the point of keeping everything a secret locked away in the vault until the day after someone passes away. And then poof, this genie opens up and, the person who's been left to be the executor says, my God, there's 28 accounts here. I always thought mom and dad had 2. Then they're struggling to sift through everything and figure it all out. And where is this and where is that? And and again, this is a generational thing. I think it's a silent generation and baby boomer generation thing that you just don't talk about money. And I think that needs to be broken because not only can the older generations have a peace of mind that their executors or kids, whoever, when they pass away, have a firm understanding of what they're leaving and what their wishes are, then the beneficiaries and heirs won't be surprised by all these things they never knew about. It's like we do this weird, awkward, silent dance with this huge elephant in the room. Everybody knows what's going to happen, but no one wants to say what's going to happen. It's super weird. So I just think, and society has made good progress in terms of, talking about mental health and, work-life balance, but we're still behind in opening up about money, especially generational stuff. And I get it. I think some parents are concerned with the fact that, hey, if my kid knows that when I pass away, they're going to get $3 million, they may not work as hard. I get it. But how do we strike a fine balance where there's there's no surprises, and their wishes are also met at the same time.
No pun intended, but I think you have the $1 million question there. Or a few million and even more.
Yeah.
We know what I mean there. That $1 million question is the amount of money that their parents, that grandparent or parent is going to leave behind. Okay, that's the connection there. That's all.
Absolutely.
Many parents and grandparents want to break unhealthy cycles. Sure they do. How can a family begin to change inherited patterns with honesty, but also with compassion?
I think starting early and teaching your kids about the realities of money is such an important thing. So as a financial planner, we have an office here. My kids come to my office and they clean the office every weekend, right? So they take out the trash, they sweep the floor, and, I do because I want them to see that when they were younger, they had this mysterious thing. They called my office my workshop, and they literally thought I walked into work, came in and pushed a button and printed money and gave it out to my clients. And that's how it was made. So just having them come in, see, understand that it's not what they think it is, and then earn a few dollars in the process to feel like they're contributing to the business, which is obviously going to fund college for them and things like that. But just teaching your kids about money, and there's different parenting ways to do that. You've seen one of the old adages that I just think is funny is you take your kid out for ice cream, and once they get their ice cream from whatever, you literally bite 20% off of it, and that's the ice cream tax, right? That's showing them that, hey, even though you have this thing, you owe the government something. There's many different creative ways that we can instill in even the youngest of children what the real world's going to look like, so we can build those patterns for the future. Because if we don't start young, there are many children who just genuinely believe money is printed out of thin air. I'll never forget my cousin. So I work with my uncle. So my cousin, his son, they went to an ATM machine. This is 15 years ago. And he puts his card in the ATM machine. Money comes out. And my cousin said to my uncle, "Really? This is how easy it is? You just put this piece of plastic in the machine and they just give you money?" And that was an eye-opening thing for my uncle. He was like, "Whoa, this is not how it works." Right? I had to put the money in the machine. I had to work hard to put the money in the machine. It's mine that's coming out. It's not just free money. So, there's different creative ways today that, kids can start learning early. But I do think it's critically important that at the earliest stages, 7, 8, 9, even the simplest lessons, if they're selling lemonade outside on the corner, right? If they make $10 in a day, maybe you keep 2. One goes to Uncle Sam and the other goes to a future investment. Right? That's 20%, just to show them that this is how the world works and kind of get them into that mindset for the future.
That dollar is cut into pieces. Sure. All of it is not yours. And foremost, Uncle Sam gets his.
Absolutely. No matter what.
Otherwise, they will come knocking.
Yeah.
Sure. There's a difference between providing for your family and building a meaningful legacy. From your perspective, how can parents and grandparents make sure they are not only leaving resources behind, but also leaving values, wisdom, and emotional strength?
Put me on the spot here, Terry. That's a tough question.
Take your time. Take your time. Because this is that passing down. That's something special. And sometimes I know it may take a thought or two, because if someone were to ask me that question, I think I have to stop and think about it as well.
I think we started this conversation a little bit ago about, this mindset of how do I get mine and not contributing to society. Yes, I believe that the vast majority, 99% of parents, obviously want their children's and grandchildren's future to be better than their own. And they will work hard over the course of their lives to ensure that occurs, as well as be able to leave them something when they pass away. The thing that I hope a lot of folks do, and I try to do this every day, is to ensure that the younger generation doesn't view that inheritance, that bank account, as some kind of deity that they should worship. And that is the be all end all, that parents instill values in their children that will allow them to understand the sacrifices it took to build this inheritance. And then when they do inherit it themselves, they realize what it took for it to get where it is today, and then use it for something altruistic in their future. Not just, I got this inheritance, I'm going to go buy myself a brand new Corvette. It's, how can I put this money to work? Maybe for me now, but also for my grandkids, meaning great grandkids that my parents never even met. That is a generational legacy. I hope folks try to make it a healthy mix of both by instilling those values and raising good young children and simultaneously working to build them some sort of inheritance. Once they do get that, I think the combination of those two things will do good for the future as well as generations unborn.
Thank you for sharing that. Your military service has included leadership, deployments, sacrifice, and time away from family. How did those experiences shape the way you think about time, presence, discipline, and the kind of memories we create with the people we love?
I don't know that we have enough time to go into all of that because I could spend hours on this, but I will sum it up as the time away from my family literally changed my physical relationship with how I perceive and feel time. I've read a bunch of books on this topic. The two most influential ones are a book called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Berkman, and then a book called Reconnected by Carlos Whitaker. My relationship with time is almost like I can see it. Like there is a hologram hourglass next to me at all times. And if I am not using the time I have been gifted by God with my day in a way that's going to bring some sort of value to my life, I view it as a waste. And what I mean by that is I viscerally hate cell phones. It frustrates me when I see parents out to dinner with their kids and they're sitting on their phone, not communicating with them, because I look back and think to myself, God, I was gone from my family for years over the course of, multiple deployments. I wish I could have that time back and I never will. And now you have this time with your kid. You're sitting in front of them eating dinner and you're looking at social media and not engaging with them. How's their day? What are their dreams? What do they want? So time has really changed for me where I actively look for and seek out ways to enrich and deepen relationships, as well as cast aside the BS that doesn't matter today and will never matter in the future, which is most of the crap you see on social media, and just try to be as present as I possibly can. And full disclosure, there are times when this relationship I have with time can be a detriment because, after a weekend, I may reflect on a Monday morning if I spent my time wisely. And sometimes it can be a mental head game where I beat myself up if I think I have made a misstep, which is obviously not healthy. But I think for the most part, my relationship with time has created a bunch of positives because the folks that are close to me, my wife, my kids, they know that when we're engaged in something together, they have my full attention. I am fully present. The distractions of the outside world, of which, again, the majority do not matter, are gone far away, and I am here and focused on the time we get to spend together.
In that same line, many parents and grandparents look back and wonder if they were too busy, too stressed, too strict, or not enough emotional presence in their grandchildren or their children's lives. For someone who feels that way, is it ever too late to repair, reconnect, or begin changing the legacy they have?
No, I don't think it's ever too late. And I'm happy you said that, Terry, because, in every study in the history of the world that has ever been done of the regrets of the dying, no one, and I mean no one on their deathbed has ever said, I wish I had spent more hours at the office. I wish I had spent more time scrolling on my phone. No one's ever said that. The number one regret of the dying is, I wish I spent more time with my family. 100% every single time. That's number one. So no, I don't think it's ever too late to start, but you have to be conscious and aware of being able to build a wall around the things that don't matter, being able to take this thing and put it somewhere where it can't distract you at all and where it's meaningless. And, one of the things that this book Reconnected talks about is humans have lost the ability to be bored, and being bored is something that creates ingenuity through imagination. And we've lost that art. If we're bored, here's what we do. I'll distract myself with whatever's here. If we're bored and we have kids and we don't have this phone, what do? Let's make up a new game. Let's build a fort with sticks. Let's go draw some chalk figures on the driveway. Boredom breeds connectivity, and you don't need the distraction of the phone to help you deal with boredom. I think that's anyway, your question was, is it ever too late? The answer is no, it's never too late, but I think you have to have a mindfulness practice of how to get rid of the distractions and be uncomfortable with being bored in certain situations, and know that that boredom is eventually going to bear fruit as you become comfortable sitting inside of it.
Well stated. Really well stated. I like that.
Thank you.
And as you were stating that, I was wondering, how can I package that and be able to put it in front of people, or the people in which I have been in front of, will be in front of? How can I purposefully, intentfully share that thought with them? And where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely.
What are the conversations families should be having now across generations about money, values, responsibilities, love, forgiveness, and what really matters before those conversations become harder or impossible to have?
I think it's just something we discussed earlier, is that understanding that, I think the younger generations today, when they look at YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, they believe that they can just, go out there, do some crazy thing that goes viral, get a niche market where you eat the worst food at all the worst restaurants and put a video out there about it and get rich. And I think society has moved away from saying, yeah, this life takes some sacrifice and hard work. It's now moved towards, man, if you just get this one viral moment, you're set for life. And I think that has permeated throughout younger generations. And as you and I both know, it's false. It's a pipe dream. It's
Yes.
I'll just use the example of NIL right now in college sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of kids playing college sports right now that are going to make more money in college than they ever will for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
And how do we as a society reckon with that? We're going to pay the starting offensive tackle for the University of Alabama $800,000 a year. He may not go to the NFL. He's got more money than he's ever had. But when he graduates with his degree, is he really going to want to go be a car salesman or an insurance salesman and make $100,000 a year after he just made $800,000 a year for playing 14 games? And it's the same thing with the TikTok stuff. So as folks get older and they talk about money and conversations and love and legacy, it's the younger generations need to know that what they're going to inherit and what their parents and grandparents have took so much sacrifice and so much hard work. And I don't think that is something younger generations can even fathom today. And that conversation is deeply important because I think older folks, rightfully so, are very deeply, deeply attached to what it took to build this wealth for their kids and grandkids. And I think they have a justifiable fear that once it's left to them, the TikTok society will take over and they'll blow it on stupid stuff or think that they can, grandma left me $200,000, whatever. That's peanuts because I'm going to go out there and I'm going to jump off a bridge into a pond and I'm going to make millions because this thing's going to go viral. So just, we live, and you said it earlier, Terry, I think younger generations live in a fantasy land. And I think it's incumbent on folks who have, been through the hard knocks and live life to really, really beat into them that what you see on the phone and what you see on TV is not reality. And we need to prepare them for reality and show them that their parents and grandparents had a harder reality. And it took a lot of sacrifice and discipline to get where they are today to be able to leave them what they're going to leave them.
Profoundly spoken. As we begin to wind down here, I want to ask you or share with you or state to you, one day your sons will be grown and telling their children stories about you. When you think about their future, what do you hope they say you taught them? Not just through your words, but through the way you lived.
If they say, hey, tell us about dad in one sentence, my ultimate hope is they say that I was kind, that I was reasonable, and that they knew without question that I loved them with my whole heart. And that I was a good father. That's when I pass away, hopefully, if it's not filled, I'll be buried at Arlington National Cemetery. And the things that will be written there, part of them is set by the VA, but then the others can be chosen by my family. And I hope it's literally 3 words. Well, technically 4 words. Good husband and father. That's it. What else do I need? Right? I mean, what else is there to life besides being good at the 2 most important jobs God has given you, which is be good to your spouse and ensure that you raise young men and young women that are going to be good and contribute to society in the future. If those things hold true, I am the richest man in the world.
And that is what family is all about. That's it.
Absolutely.
It's what you leave behind. It's the tools in which you give them as they walk through life and what you leave behind for them. And it's not all in money. It's not money. Money
I
is the
actually
tool.
don't know that any of it is money.
Yeah. Money is no more than the tool. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And speaking of the tool, do you have any tools in which you can contribute, that you can pull from out of your little treasure box, that you can share with our audience? How can they contact you? Where can they find you? What words of that wisdom can you give the audience as we draw to our end here?
I may be dating myself here. 1982, the lead singer of the Eagles named Don Henley, he came out with a song called Dirty Laundry. And the song Dirty Laundry was as relevant in 1982 as it is today. And what I hope folks take away, if you haven't heard the song, go listen to it, read the lyrics.
Oh, I know it.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Some folks who are listening who are a lot younger than us probably have no idea what it is.
I know it.
What you need to take away from that is that fear sells. And what I mean by that is there's no channel that's called the Good News Network. And even if there was, 4 people would watch it, because no one is going to tune in to hear how Timmy planted his garden down the street and it grew. People are attracted to fear. And that's been psychologically proven. That's how you garner advertising dollars. So when you're tuning in to CNBC and you see Jim Cramer smashing his stupid little sound effect buttons and throwing his chair across the set, you should understand that it's theater. It's theater to sell advertising dollars, and fear sells. The word of wisdom or advice I would give folks is turn off the TV.
Yes.
Because everything that comes out of it is garbage. And if you can block out the noise, you'll be successful at investing. And this is essentially the crux that goes down the rabbit hole of behavioral finance. To answer your question, where you can find me, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Brian Pultro. I'm the only person on planet Earth with that name. So it's super easy to find me. And then
spell that, please, for the audience. Spell that, please.
Brian, and then last name is Pultro, Pultro, and Brian's with an I. Again, the only person on planet Earth with that name. If you Google me or look me up in ChatGPT or whatever, you'll have no problem finding me. And then the website is pultrofinancialmanagement.com. And just, turn off the TV. That's the biggest thing that I can tell everybody, because nothing good comes of it if you sit there and just destroy yourself with fear all day, every day.
As we used to call it way back when, the idiot box.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for your time, Brian.
Terry, thank you so much. It's been wonderful, and I really appreciate you inviting me on. Thank you.
And I appreciate you being here as a guest and sharing your thoughtful wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a meaningful conversation with Brian Pultro. This episode reminds us that legacy is not just what we leave for our families. It is what we leave in them. Money matters, but so do our values, our words, our habits, our discipline, our presence, and the way we make our children and grandchildren feel. The good news is, legacy is still being built. It is being built in everyday choices, honest conversations, repaired relationships, and intentional moments with the people we love. So as you leave this episode, ask yourself, what do I want my family to remember because of the way I lived? If this conversation spoke to you, please subscribe, follow, leave a review, share it with someone you love. Every share helps us reach more families who need these conversations. Thank you for listening to the Power of Family podcast. Until the next time, keep building a legacy that lasts far beyond money.